Welcome to another episode of Boosted Rolls, a War Machine and Hearts podcast focused on EU meta, tournaments and tactics. My name is Tomasz and I play Infernals.
Hi guys, I'm Simon and I stream live at twitch.tv/HonestSci. There'll be some links in the description below. It's computer gaming stuff, but gaming nonetheless, and it would be a pleasure to see any and all of you there. And today we have two special guests from Tomasz's team of the ConQuest tournament in Norway. Some of you may have already heard our episode with Jonas covering the Masters tournament, and this one is covering the team tournament, and we'll do a very brief description of the Invitational as well. For the first time, both people are with us, although one of us has kind of been with us before. We'll come on to that in a moment. So guys, introduce yourselves.
Hey, my name is Kuba. I'm playing a Norwegian WTC winner of last year, former Norwegian champion in War Machine, and I have a couple of smaller successes too.
Hey!
And my name is Nima, and I was carried like hell.
Just to point out, Kuba wasn't showing off. In the notes we have, how long have you been playing and what are your biggest successes? But I forgot to ask. So there we are. He's covered it briefly. But the reason that Kuba was almost on the show previously was because we did do some coverage for the WTC, or just after the WTC, and we were in a rush to try and get as many episodes out as we could, and very unfortunately we lost the audio from that episode. It didn't save properly and we weren't able to recover it, and though we did try to then even re-record the episode, Kuba was willing to do it again. He then fell sick immediately after that, and we just never got around to it. More tournaments came up and sadly we weren't able to get that content out, which is a real shame because it was one of my favourite episodes that we've done. But luckily we get the chance to chat with him again today. So guys, we've already heard from Tomasz what he thought about ConQuest, but let's hear it from you. What did you think about the tournament? What did you think about the organisation and the venue and the format and so on and so forth?
Well, I mean, I live in Norway, so I might be a bit biased here, but I think ConQuest is something you can't miss. It's a fantastic fun. Extremely fun to play, a lot of fantastic players. I mean, if you're there just to have fun, you'll still meet a lot of good people, very nice guys, sit around, drink a bit. Yeah, Norway is probably a bit on the expensive side for everyone else than Norwegians, but definitely don't miss it. It's one of the best cons.
It's I have an impression that the level of this con is pretty high. There is a lot of very competitive player coming from all over the Europe, and also casual players. They can bring a good game, and yeah, I enjoy it so much. You know, I played on ConQuest last year and this year, and I'm very satisfied with both.
In terms of the level of competition, I would say it's probably one of the top three in Europe in terms of level of difficulty and competition. Would anyone disagree with that? Would someone put it out of the top three?
I wouldn't.
Probably say top two.
But yeah, what are we putting up there with it? Like, I mean, Battle at Lund has a high level, but I would say ConQuest is probably slightly higher.
That was an impression I got because I went to Lund just one time last year. And it was a great convention. I love it, and I'm going to go next year again. But I got more competitive games here this year. You know, maybe it was just because of pairing and stuff. You know, but I just felt that I had more demanding games here than I had in Lund. But
yeah. No, I mean, I have I think there was a more condensed competitive player base in ConQuest, whereas even though there was a very difficult field in London, by the way, London's one of my favourite tournaments in the world, but it did have a wider casual base as well, which is obviously a big thing in its favour. Like, the fact that it attracts all sorts of players is a very good thing, but if you're just looking to practice to play difficult Masters tournaments, ConQuest is right up there.
Yeah, but I don't know where it comes from. Like, I get the feeling that all the people that travel are the same on both of those conventions, and the only difference is the Swedish player base versus Norwegian player base.
You heard it here first, Norway's better than Sweden. Right. That's going to be a popular one. Let's see how that goes down with the viewer base. All right. So, on to the Actually, let's start with, we're going to very briefly cover the Invitational tournament. We will not be able to do a full episode on this one. We simply don't have time. It's mainly on me. I have a lot of time commitments at the moment. And so we've got the Polish Team Championships coming up as well. We've got 2 episodes for this. I just can't do it along with the streaming and my work. So apologies for that. But one thing did come up from it that we would like to have a quick chat about. And it's a topic that I think should maybe be discussed a bit more in the competitive scene especially, but just in general, which is table conflict. So Tomasz, if you could give us a very quick run-up of how we got to the finals, and then we'll talk about the finals very briefly, and then discuss the topic. So, round 1, what happened? Just very briefly.
Sure. So, round 1, I got the legendary Andreas home. Andreas, the day before, made me a drunken promise that if he draws me in the Invitational, he will play Lucas in Hearts of Darkness.
Okay.
We are playing on Spread the Net. I choose Zatarov, and there was not much going on. Like, we were fighting in the middle. A lot of attacks were missed. Some mistakes were made. Shrieker ruined a lot of plans. And I think it was the first game Andreas played the least. So eventually time became an issue and Andreas clocked.
Fair enough. And round 2?
Round 2, I got Kuba. And we were playing Harbinger versus Amodamos on Recon 2. The table was very dense with a big cloud in the middle, so I felt pretty okay about the matchup. But of course, it's Kuba.
Any drunken promises for this one? Like, did you swap casters or?
No. This time it was full-on competitive game. We both, I think, did our best. There were some mistakes that happened. Eventually, I put a Tormentor in the zone that I would expect to die, but it didn't. It survived on like 2 or 3 boxes. Then Kuba sent like million attacks to finish it off, but he had some very unfortunate rolls. The Tormentor stayed there, so he scored me a point or contested the zone that he shouldn't. And in the end, the fight got to 7th. Kuba went 2nd, so it was his last turn. And because I've made a mistake and contested his flag with only 1 model, Kuba could kill it, score the last point to go to tiebreakers, points killed, and win on this tiebreaker. But unfortunately, Kuba missed the attack onto this model and then clocked out during another attack that would kill the model.
Right, trying to scramble to kill it, but didn't get there. So that is incredibly tight. Right, okay.
Yeah.
So quite worthy of an Invitationals tournament. Nice. And then was it a 3-round tournament? Then we're on the finals?
Correct, it's the finals now.
So we hit the finals, which is an Infernals mirror between yourself and Juan, right?
Correct.
Juan, for those who don't remember, we interviewed in our Munin roundup after WTC. So he was one of the winners of WTC on Kuba's team. And so that game progressed for quite a while. In fact, I think it got into something like 20 minutes left on both players' clocks, or maybe even less. I don't know the details. Not too important. And essentially a situation came up whereby Juan was measuring out an assassination, which he felt was good enough to go for. And during that, he proxied out the movement of his Hermit with its reposition. I think it was Hermit with reposition. I think that's right. But yep. A model, the details are not too important. A model with reposition. And Tomasz was under the impression that model had been activated and moved. And he had a problem because he couldn't decide when to declare a countercharge. He had countercharges available, and at one point he declared the countercharge. And the issue is that when do you declare that countercharge, right? Do you declare it when he touches the model or when he puts the model on the proxy base? Because the problem is that the proxy base was set up for the reposition, so it's difficult to know exactly when that movement happens. Obviously, different people have different opinions on when it happened and when it didn't. And what happened is that a judge was called and emotions started to rise. We've all seen it, especially in Invitationals finals, but also just in a general competitive environment where there's a disagreement and emotions start to rise. And so the topic that I wanted to discuss, instead of focusing on the specific situation and who was right and wrong and what happened, which isn't too important, I just want to focus on what should be done better about emotional interference at tables. And fortunately, I had the chance to have a chat with Jonas Brand, so the judge who came to try and deal with this situation. And he had some interesting thoughts, which I asked if it was okay to share, and he said it was fine. which is that he thinks two things should have happened. One, at every Invitational's finals, so at every large tournament, international finals, a judge should be present for the entire game. And this isn't to prevent cheating or something stupid like that. It's just to make everybody calmer and to have an independent opinion available at all times, which can be trusted. And two, he thinks that once emotions flare, and by the way, there was no bad blood. I want to stress that there was nothing said that shouldn't have been said, or no bad-mannered behavior. Simply, emotions got high because of a competitive situation. But in that situation, he suggested that one thing we might do is just ask both players to leave the table and just take 5 minutes off, just to cool down, just to get a level head, because it's so much more entertaining for everybody and the players if the game gets played out to its natural conclusion and isn't then messed up by errors made by stress, which, by the way, is what happened. So after this judge call and emotions escalated, various mistakes were made with orders of activation, takebacks were asked for, denied. I mean, it's the Invitational's finals, but, you know, these things happen. And eventually Juan went for an assassination anyway, but he wasn't able to get enough essence onto his tormentor. It failed and he conceded. So what do you guys think? First of all, do you think it's correct that a judge should be at every large finals? Well,
it's kind of, I mean, the easy answer on that is yes. I would like to start to say, I mean, I do understand that we're only humans, and two players playing in the final table, there are emotions, no matter what happens.
Of course.
But yes, I think that Jonas is on the correct path here. We should have a judge on every final table. We should also be able to ask the players to, just leave for 5 minutes. It disrupts the game. Don't misunderstand me. To leave the table disrupts the game for both players, but you get the chance to cool down.
Here's my main concern with the stepping away for 5 minutes, and I apologise for sort of jumping in. I've been talking for ages, but here we go. I like the sound of my own voice. If you give the players the opportunity to walk away from the table for 5 minutes every time they get elevated emotion at a table, then theoretically it could be abused by someone who's very short on clock and needs 5 minutes to work out the assassination.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Plus, if you're leaving the table for 5 minutes, you can be interrupted by some other players giving advice, and maybe you don't want to hear that, but you hear that anyway.
Yeah, somebody says something they shouldn't.
So in my opinion, they shouldn't be able to leave the table at all.
I mean, we got to remember that we're discussing a game of War Machine and Hordes. We don't need to police that too much, and I do agree with Kuba as well that leaving the table might.
But now I'm thinking about toilet breaks. Yeah, shit, no.
Yeah, I was thinking about toilet breaks. When you said it, I was thinking, yeah, but when I've had quite a few games that have got a bit stressful, and we've said, look, should we just go and take a piss? And it's the perfect amount of time. You're just like, oh, okay, right, let's go back, let's play this out, let's do it. But there is that situation where if it's a finals and everybody's watching and everybody's got an opinion and everybody for some reason likes to share that opinion, even when it's the finals, that's another thing. Should people shut the hell up? I think people should shut the hell up when it's the finals.
There were a couple of rules that were upheld, and one is that if you're watching the game, that's exactly what you're doing. You're watching the game. You shouldn't even be heard by the players. Yeah. Well, I would just like to say a couple of things more about the subject of leaving the table. I mean, you don't need to leave the table. What you really need to do is you need to take 2-minute break, stand, talk to the judge, whatever. Just calm down. I mean, it's still a game, and as I said to both players, and I would always say to any player in the finals, I would not give you a take back. I would not. I mean, follow the rules, play clean, have a judge there, and if emotions run that high that the judge sees that this is not something a dispute you can solve right there and then with both players arguing about it, then yeah, of course, take 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting part is if you take 2 minutes at the table, top players, if you give one of us here 2 minutes at the table, we can vastly improve our turn. 2 minutes is a long time. And if you're standing at the table, you can see and you can eyeball measurements, you can work out charge lanes. If you're standing away from the table, then people can give you advice and you can hear comments about, oh, well, he didn't do this, which could maybe even throw you off your game even more. If they say, oh, man, why did you miss that control point? Oh, shit, I missed a control. Oh, my God. it can be a mental fuckery all round. Another thing that Jonas said, sorry, I forgot, I've just remembered. He was saying that one thing he thought might improve the situation, he wasn't sure, it was just an idea, but is that you should, that when the judge comes, let's say that the judge it's not a finals, and the judge comes to the table after an incident has happened, right? And so the judge didn't see the incident. He was saying that a judge should listen to both players separately. The other player should not be there when he hears the account of the first player, because one of the things that he thinks might, and I kind of agree with this, one of the things that escalates tension is if you listen, the judge comes over and says, hey, what happened? And one player jumps in and says, he countercharged too soon. And then the other player obviously defends themselves and says, whoa, I countercharged it. And then an argument begins, right? Whereas if the judge comes in and says, okay, if you could just step away for me, right, you tell me what happened. Great. Now could you step away? And now you come back and you tell me what happened. Right. Now we've got a clear picture.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot better. Not only to prevent one player interrupting another player's description of what happened because they don't agree with it, which obviously rises up the emotions, but also to prevent viewers jumping in, speaking their own opinion on the matter, because when you have two players with different version of what happened and there was no judge present at the table, viewers can feel like they are the only objective eyes on the matter. And then you would have one viewer jumping in, describing what happened to the judge, and then maybe another viewer jumping in to say that he saw the things differently than the first guy, and it all becomes a huge clusterfuck. But if I may touch on some previous points, while I think some very good and interesting points were brought, I also think it's a bit pointless to discuss them because only one point matter, which is that judge should be present at the finals table. Because if judge was present at the table, none of the other things would matter. There would be no need to take a break. There would be no need to lower the emotions because they would never have the opportunity to rise. It would be the better experience for everyone around.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that we have to go too deep into this topic because this one solution of having a judge by the table should solve it all, and all other things.
It certainly solves the final table anyway, doesn't it? Because like at other tables, that's when judges might not be able to sit at every table, but at least for the final table, which is when I think it's the most important, get a judge there. So if you're a convention organizer, this is our best tip that we can give to improve your tournament is to just have a judge present at the final table from the start. Cool. That was it. That's all we got. So the Invitational tournament was also won by Tomasz. So again, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It was well deserved, especially getting through Kuba and Juan, both very, very strong opponents, and Andreas with a hangover, maybe slightly less impressive, but much more entertaining. So brilliant. Glad to hear it. So we move on to the team tournament, and that's what we're here to discuss today. So, was it a dodge or a challenge format? I know you told me in the last episode, but I've already forgotten.
It was the challenger format, but it had a little twist. So at the start, there is a roll-off between teams, and the team that wins the roll can choose a table and put their challenger there. So the twist is we would usually play that you can pick between first and third table. In this case, you could pick any table you like, and the opposing team can pick any table from the two that are left. And the challenger is the person that doesn't get to dodge. That's the person that the opposing team will choose the matchup for. Of course, you can dodge if you can predict who's the challenger on the other side. So if you go second, you can maybe predict based on the terrain. And if you go first, you have the benefit of just choosing any table you like.
Right. Okay. I mean, that is actually a format I've played a couple of times. It was a little bit popular in Austria. I think I played that. I think I played it in Klagenfurt. I could be wrong, but I have played it before. It's an interesting format, and I'm sure it led to some interesting games. We'll come on to that. How many teams were there?
There were 63 players, so that gives us, 21 teams?
I think it could be a bit less, because some players, they went for Steamroller instead.
So some dropped out.
Yeah, so probably we're talking about 50-ish,
15, something like that, 15, 16, 17. And you had 4 rounds from that, or 3?
4.
4 rounds, perfect. So 4 rounds for a team tournament is quite a big field. All right, cool. And which teams were you nervous about? Which ones were the strong competition?
for sure British team with
Jake and Mark.
Yeah, Jake and Mark, and then a Robin's team that we didn't meet. There were some strong Norwegian teams, and probably some more Swedish teams that were
another Swedish team with Daniel, with Andreas and Morgan. That was the one I was worried about.
Oh, Daniel Bergström, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. And did Sverre compete this time, or was he just purely organizing again?
No, him and Jonas were just organizing. They couldn't. Right. They didn't get.
He did such a great job last year. I'm sort of sad to see him not compete, but I'm also really glad to see him organise because it ends up really well for everybody else. I always love to hear about his match reports as well. So, all right. So we've got quite a few strong teams. We've got quite a large field. And so, what were your list pairs? What did you take into the tournament? And if it was particularly different to your Masters lists, then maybe just mention why you made that change. So we'll start with Tomasz. What did you take, and was it the same as your Masters lists?
Well, because my Masters list served me well, I decided to take the same pairing.
Sure, and it was?
Zataroth, Amadeus.
So Zataroth, Amadeus, no changes, no tech, same lists?
Correct.
Cool, perfect. And Kuba, did you take your same Masters lists, and what were they?
Yeah, I took Master lists. It was Vindictus in Fateful Masses and Harbinger in Fateful Masses.
Okay, and what was your Harby list? I assume you played that most, so what was in the Harby list mainly?
4 heavies, 3 Crusaders, Sanctifier, 2 Archons, 3 units of Initiates, Hierophant, 2 Monks, Book, 1 Champion. I swapped another Champion for Devout. And I think that's pretty much it. Maybe Hand of Silence, of course.
I was about to say Hand of Silence. Okay.
And the Mechanic.
And Mechanic, yeah, 1 Mechanic. That's correct. Thank you, Tomasz.
Always remembering the Mechanic. Don't worry, lads. Tomasz has got you covered. And Nima, what were you running, and was it the same as your Masters?
Well, I was a bit late because of my sick daughter, so I skipped the Masters.
Okay. Sorry to hear that. Go on.
I was playing Issyria and Gareth 2.
Okay. And what made you, is that a pair that you've been playing for a long time, you're comfortable with, or are you of the opinion that that's the only pair that works in Ret, or what's your reasoning behind that pair?
Well, I'm one of those special snowflake guys. I like to test out a lot of stuff, but
and so you decided on Gareth 2 and Assyria.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, let's face it. When we were playing a competition, it's competition time. Assyria is probably my favorite caster. I think she works into approximately everything.
Okay.
Gareth 2 is the most boring caster to play ever, but he's so good. I mean, some armies, he just casts a spell and everything's dead.
Right.
So the 3 casters I was looking at was Assyria, Gareth 2, and Gorshade 4.
Okay. And what made you sort of take Gorshade 4 out in the end? Was it just you can't really justify not taking Gareth 2. You love Assyria, and she's strong, and it makes for a decent pair.
Yeah, it was basically when I was aiming to get to join these guys at WTC, the first team, and that was the list. The 2 casters I was playing all the time. So I just continued playing them. Assyria,
gotcha.
Best 2 casters in Red, but Gorshade 4 close second.
And are you based in Oslo?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So, I think we can just move on to the battle reports. I think we've covered everything we wanted to cover, right?
Yep.
We're good? Excellent. Perfect. All right. Jesus. I'm so sorry. I'm really surprised because we're not already an hour into the episode and we're getting into the good stuff. Right. It's very unusual. Battle reports. We have 4 rounds, and I've got the scenarios provided by Tomasz, thankfully. So, round 1 was on Anarchy. Who was the opposing team, and how did the selection go? Who did you put out as a challenger, and why?
So the opposing team was Juan, Asbjorn, and Holger. So Infernals, Circle, and Grimkins. Mm-hmm. And there were 3 tables with two tables out of the 3 had big forests, where one had big forest in not that meaningful place, but the other one had 2 massive forests in very meaningful places. So I remember that pretty clear that we wanted to manipulate matchups so Asbjorn doesn't end up on this particular table.
Was he running a double Raptor list, or was he...
It was Baldur 1 without the Raptor, and I think Kruger 2 in Bones of Ouroboros, so there's no Raptor.
No Raptor at all. So he's gone from double Raptoring to no Raptoring. Interesting. Yeah. All right, cool.
And from dodges, as far as I remember, I had a conversation with Nima about Infernals, and we wanted to dodge that if possible. Is that right, Nima?
Yeah, I said throw me under the bus and you guys take the matchups you want, but I'd rather not have Infernals.
Okay, and is that just because of a lack of experience, or because of experience that tells you that it's not good for rep?
Well, spoiler here, since we're not there, first match ever against Infernals was that game.
Right, so the former then. Right, okay, fair enough. And so were you sort of put out first and just like, right, let's whoop whoop, here comes the bus?
I gotta be honest, when we play team tournaments like that, I'm really looking for a challenge. I think the better player and the worst matchup I can get, the more fun it is. It's not good for the team, but still. So
it can be if you get the best player out of the way.
For sure. I think I'm not 100% sure, and Tomasz, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we put me out first, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did, on the table with those two big forests.
Okay, so if they put Asbjorn, then like at least the strong circle table is out the way, and you can most likely take the other two. Or if they put out someone else, then at least you've not granted Asbjorn his forests.
Yeah, and we were pretty happy about the matchup Retribution versus Circle.
Right, okay, so you felt that would be decent enough if they took it, and if they didn't take it, then fine, and just hope that they don't smack the Infernals, but they did. Okay, so what did you guys end up with then?
So I ended up with Holger versus Grimkins.
Okay.
And I played Asbjorn and his Baldur 1 list.
Oh, he took the Baldur 1 list. All right, so Kuba, let's hear yours first. How did the first game go against Baldur 1?
All right, so the thing was that for some reasons I got very stressed during that game because before we even started deploying, before our models were on the table, the judge came and he said that the time it's already running.
Like the round clock or whatever.
Yes, and I have a nightmare of being diced down because it happened to me one time for many years ago during European Masters team championship in England for many years ago, and since then I was always trying to avoid this situation. And now me playing Harby, it's often like round 7. My opponent is clocking out, and I get a game. And here, I felt, okay, if I don't hurry up, this scenario will be taken from me.
Yeah. Okay, so a bit of stress early on. I'm sure, the only good news about that scenario is that I think we can agree that Asbjorn is the sort of player where if he felt he was losing, and that we were going to get a dice down scenario, he would concede the game to you, I think.
No. Like Asbjorn, he's a fantastic gentleman. What happened when we started the game? He said, "Let's go down 5 minutes on each of us clock."
Okay, so you started at 55 just to make sure there was no double down.
Exactly. It's still I think it still was possible, to get caught by dice down, but that was a great gesture from him.
I mean, I trusted him to make the right gesture there. He's as you say, a gentleman.
Yeah, great player and gentleman all the way.
Perfect. All right, so a bit of stress, but then you get into the game.
Then I don't remember, but I think I went first.
No, don't worry about it. So you went first, and did you have a building in the middle or a forest, or what was in the middle?
No, I didn't have anything in the middle. He took one middle forest, and then there was one forest on the left side. So what I decided about is to spread my forces pretty equally, but with a little bit stronger force on the right side. And I think, in a way, I forced him to do the same, because I was thinking about this matchup. Harby changes like Martydon, I thought that if he will be able to strike in one place, like if I will accumulate my forces and he will be able to strike in one place, then he can go through Martydon and he can start killing way too many models with if he has enough of attacks. So I decided to go on both sides, and it forced him to put 1 unit of Tarn's Ravagers on a side where only one champion and 1 unit of Initiates and 1 Archon was, and then I could shift my Jags to another side. And he also needed a unit there. But yeah, he had 2 units. He also had this contesting unit with corpses. I'm not sure what the
Death Wolves.
Death Wolves. But he also decided to put 1 unit of Tarn Ravagers on this side. So I was pretty happy about it, because then I knew, all right, a lot of powerful attacks won't hit me at the same time.
Right. So you'd thought about it a little bit in advance, you'd set up a game plan and you'd executed it, and so far it looks like that game plan's going well. Cool. What's he trying to do on the other side? What's his sort of push?
I managed to rebuke a unit on the right side. So his impact on the right side wouldn't be that meaningful. Probably he would have to invest 3 turns to kill one of my warjacks, and then I would have another warjack that was just behind him to kill those 3 in favorite. And I thought, okay, I can set up for a pretty good attrition game here. He went for some game in the middle, some attacks in the middle. He took out my Archon and a couple of other things, but I managed to keep my book safe. So I could keep Balduran Bay with Forest Assassination.
And did he have a Well or a Night Witch? Could he get rid of the Rebuke, or was it on him all game?
Yeah, he could, but I think that Night Witch was too far, and he decided to put Gallow Gross with a Well.
Okay, fair enough. So the Rebuke stuck for quite some time.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So how did the game progress?
At some point, I decided not to purify his upkeeps, just not to get a Rebuke out of the Ravagers unit.
Right.
So it was. We had some exchange, and eventually I managed to win on the left flank, and I managed to take the middle. And that was enough for me to win. I think maybe biggest mistake Osbjorn did was that he didn't really commit it with full force. Like his attacks were more spread, here and there. Okay,
he was standing off a little bit too much. He didn't get involved, and so you were able to take over one side.
Yeah.
And did that scenario win come in like round 4 or 5 or 7?
I believe that we went to round 7. Yeah.
Okay, so it went the distance, but you just had control of the center and left.
Yeah, I had the control over the points, and also I felt pretty safe.
Nice. All right. And Nima, let's hear about your very first game against Infernals. Did that go predictably horribly, or was it a bit of a grind?
It didn't go horribly, actually. I was playing Juan, and Juan was in the Invitational finals as well, and won the WTC. So and I played a lot against him, so I know his playstyle. So we set up, rolled to go first, and he won. I was told later on that Infernals going first is very bad. He charged, he ran up his stuff, I ran up my stuff. He got a Rebuke on my Sentinels, and I said, okay, then the Sentinels out of the game. He charged with his Snake Beast. I don't know what the name of these beasts are. So
Snake.
Yeah, he charged his Snake into one of my heavies. And I was a bit amused that they're not that strong, because he didn't kill it. My second round, I feeded with Ysira. Imperatus killed the snake. The 2 tridents ran up and charged, and that round I killed the snake and 3 heavies.
Oh, yes. And so he didn't have, like, they weren't covered by long shadows, or they were, and you got charged lanes that he wasn't. I mean, he couldn't give you 3 heavies on purpose. So what was the mistake?
The thing is that my tridents charged 13 inches with Ysira. And from there I shoot.
If you give them a charge target, right?
And from there I shoot another 7. So that he put something. He put them basically in range. He was so sure that they wouldn't go that way. I rolled a bit hot, but Isira feat is, I mean, a lot of die kind of spikes.
Yeah. Okay.
So off the bat, I was playing with 22 points less because of Rebuke, but I managed to kill these beasts. He kept summoning them. I kept trying to win some more ground. I didn't lose that much, but he eventually won because I was still afraid of 14 inches threat range, so I didn't move Issyria to the zone that she could score because there was always something in range. That was my main mistake. I didn't move my caster. If I had, we would probably have a much tighter game. But it was very fun, and I learned a lot.
And you made it to roughly round 7, or
I think it was round 6.
Round 6-ish. Okay. But you put a serious dint into him and then had a bit of a tactical error.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we're 1-1. And do we know if... let's hear about Tomasz's game. So, the deciding game, Tomasz versus Holger with his Grimkin. What did he bring out in the end? Was it Child or...?
It was Wanderer, and I think the second list was Dreamer, but I don't remember, honestly.
Okay, but he played Wanderer.
Yeah, I was stressed before this game for different reasons. We finished very late the day before because the Master ran for 6 rounds in one day. And then we went back home, we had some vodka with Kuba and very little sleep, and then tournament again. So I came in pretty stressed, but had a little chat with Holger before the game, and that relaxed me a bit. I was sure that we are going to have a fun game. So we exchange our lists. I see Wanderer and something else. The reason why I don't remember the other list is because I was very focused on the Wanderer. I know Grimkin players are excited about him after WTC. So also I was thinking about Wanderer when I was building my pair. I was thinking about my matchup into Grimkins, and Amadamos fixes my mat, so that helps a lot into Starcrossed, but also he gives my army Unyielding, and Unyielding helps into Nayslayers because now I can reasonably take 1 or 2 charges from them onto a heavy and expect the heavy to survive, so that helps a bit. I don't remember who went first. It doesn't matter. We were pretty standoffish early on. I think I would just make a heavy, shoot with the gate, maybe get some deviations onto Naysayers. I would shoot with my Shrieker, I would shoot with my Desolators, try to contest each scenario element with a heavy, but I tried to minimize the damage he could make, so he could send like 1 or 2 Naysayers every time, so Holger wouldn't do it. So the game progresses and I kill like few Naysayers a turn. He brings back few of them, but they never came back in the same numbers as they were removed from the table. So eventually Holger decides to commit, but because of some gotchas, some counter charges, not much is achieved. And then in return, I decide to fit. And the funny winning play was jamming his army with the Shrieker. So I would run the Shrieker 16 inches to a place where Wailing would catch the whole cavalry unit and the Wanderer, and there was nothing in the range to kill the Shrieker. So in Holger's turn, he needed to remove the Shrieker, but the only way he could do it was with cavalry that cannot charge and will hit me with mat 5 or 6 power 7s, or with Wanderer. So Wanderer charges me, but because Wanderer is mat 5 power 12, I think, he manages to kill me with his last attack. So he's standing there in the middle with no camp, with no Starcrossed up. So I think this was the moment when we shake hands.
You effectively killed him with a Shrieker. Nobody saw that coming. Ragnar OP.
Yeah, I love the Shrieker, and I didn't even realize he has Wailing before this tournament. And once someone pointed this out to me, I started abusing this rule in almost every round.
Nice. Well, we'll see if we hear any more about the Shrieker in the upcoming rounds. So, round 2, we're on Invasion. And which opposing team did we end up with, Tomasz?
It was British team with Gil's help, so Mark, Jake, and Gil.
All right, okay, fine. And what was Gil playing? His usual Kador or something else?
Yeah, Butcher free.
Yeah. Okay.
He's the European butcher. Yeah, I don't remember table situation. Like nothing stood out for me, but I remember I didn't feel comfortable into Scorn because of what Morgan did to me in the Masters. And I think maybe Kuba, you wanted to dodge something or not?
No, I think I was able to play all the matchups. I played Mark and Jake during Masters.
I presume Jake was playing Zal too, and Mark was playing with his wallet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if I remember correctly, you didn't. Tomasz didn't want to have Scorn, and we decided. Yeah, we decided that the easiest matchup, because we got the best matchups we could that game, was Kuba and Tomasz into Kador and Infernals.
Yep.
And I'll go first out again if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And are you happy with the Infernals, Mira?
Well, I wasn't very happy. Like from my own egocentric perspective, I was very happy to get Mark just to learn something from Mark. I felt like I'm still very new to Infernals, and I know he played a lot of games, so I knew I could learn a lot from it. And from the matchup perspective, if I go first with Zatarov, I have probably a good chance of into this mirror. But if I go second, because Mark has more heavies in his list than I do, I would be probably in a bad spot. So, yeah.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. I'll be interested later on to see if Mark had the same thoughts or whether he was... of a different mind. Okay, so what were the matchups in the end? What did we end up with?
So I get Mark.
Oh, you did get it. Okay, yep.
Kuba gets Kador, and Nima gets Jake.
All right, cool. Kuba, let's start with you again. How was the Kador matchup? What did he play, and how did it progress?
I didn't know that Gil, he's a War Machine or European Butcher before that, So I looked at his list, and I was a little bit skeptical about playing into Butcher because I haven't played against this caster since Mark II.
It's all right. Most of Gil's stories are from Mark 1, so and nearly all of them end with "and then Butcher charged."
Yeah.
So it's you get the idea. So go on.
So I decided to take a safe choice and go for Harby. I thought that Book and Martydon will do the job in that game. But I still had in the back of my head, he will pull some crazy assassination trick that I haven't seen before, and I will end up losing. But from the matchup perspective, in general, I was feeling pretty confident. And what was the scenario again? What's the name of the scenario?
The scenario was Invasion.
Invasion. So I went first, and it was really great for me that I could go first, because I managed to push my jacks higher, and he couldn't push his jacks his army during the first turn. So I decided, okay, according to win this, I have to win the middle and have a very strong middle. Then I put some forces on the left side. It was like one heavy, one Archon, and one unit of initiates to just hold the zone, potentially threaten the zone. And then in my right zone, I put the monk in there, only monk, because I knew that I just need to keep the zone for some time. And
the hero monk. And did he have any grievous wounds available, or not so much?
No, he didn't have any grievous wounds. But
he's fucked, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he has a very interesting army composition, because. But also, I looked at his army, and I thought, okay, so what I have to do, I have to score 1 point, potentially 2 points, and then win the game in round 7, or I can try to force him to clock, because he had a lot of infantry models with a lot of attacks, and I have a lot of shield guards, and I have a lot of shooting immunity, so it will take him some time to direct this all his range attacks into right models. So I knew, okay, he has much more effective activations each turn, and he will use more time on it. So what I was doing, I was playing a very passive game. I just took the middle. I didn't commit much. I just, at some point, I committed a jack or a Hand of Silence to kill objective. And then, I was just bunkering the book and disposing my shield guards to big shots he had. So Butcher couldn't really go in, because if he would, then probably 2 heavy jacks would be able to kill him with +2/+2 bonus from initiates that would have to die on the way. I went after his jack in a middle zone, and I didn't manage to kill it in one turn, and he had a repair objective, so I got a little bit stressed there, but still, I had such a strong bunker that he couldn't go through it, and I got my point in the middle. I was feeding him with some moles, I feed him with champion, I feed him with 1 Archon on one side just to steal some time. And then eventually I scored 2 or 3 points, and he clocked out. So the game went according to my plan, but I was a bit stressed, since I didn't know.
Always a bit stressed.
I didn't know this caster at all, and I read the card, but I thought, okay, if I haven't played it, something can happen, So
I mean, Butcher 3 is a chunky boy. Yeah. He is a chunky boy. He is scary, and so it's perfectly reasonable to be a bit nervous about him.
And cool. Definitely, if Gil, he would have more time, because he also has a very grindy list. There is a lot of attacks. He has some heavies. He has Butcher that does a lot of work himself. And
was he committing him? Was he committing him regularly, or just only at the end?
No, actually, he committed Butcher, and I calculated it, and then I thought, should I go and try to kill Butcher? What if I fail? I rather to do nothing, and I just waited it out.
Okay. And Nima, how was your game? You're coming into Invasion, so a very dead scenario. I'm presuming you prefer Gareth 2 in that scenario?
Yeah, I was looking at his lists, and the previous day I played the Steamroller against a friend of mine from Norway that has the exact same lists, and he said, let's have fun, both of us. So he picked the other list, and I picked this area.
Right.
So I went into this picking Gareth. And I gotta be honest with you guys and say that I have yet. That was my first game against Zal2 as well.
Sweet Jesus!
But I kind of knew how it's gonna go. So he won the roll. He went first. He ran up everything. I ran up everything. I think it was my second turn. I feeded. He moved everything back a bit, and then then he feeded. So my 2 snipers got 6 damage into one of the Supreme Guardians. Gareth shot with armor piercing. I shot everything I had on the armor 24 Supreme Guardian and left it at 3 boxes.
Okay.
And that's where it went downhill, because he managed to charge an objective and kill my AFG. It didn't look that good on the table, but I felt that this is what's going to happen. So I tried to get back, and I did kill both of the Supreme Guardians during the game, and I killed a lot. But I mean, Jake is a fantastic player, and I kind of agreed with myself that experience. And one of the things Jake also told me is that him and Sverre have had this game so many times now that yeah. But I mean, I lost the game 5-0 on scenario. Killed a lot. I saw that Gareth Burks into this, and I learned a lot from the game.
I've watched Jake play that matchup so many times, and it has gone both ways. It's a very, very grindy matchup, but if you ever want to get into a grind against someone, it's not Jake, because that's all he does. He is, I mean, it's not all he can do, but it's all he ends up doing, is just having nasty, nasty grinds. And And so he's very experienced, as you say, and experience really does come through. So yeah, not an easy opponent at all. All right, so you're 1-1 again, and Tomasz, give us the final game of that round.
All right. So previously you asked me how I feel about the Infernal's mirror, and I gave you my thoughts. But I was very happy going into this mirror. Like, I got the best matchups I could, and this is because I was very worried to get Jake, with Zal too, because it's the same scenario that I've played against Morgan, and Jake is the one that gave Morgan advices on how to play it. So just for the record, I think it's not a bad matchup for Infernals. It's probably good, like maybe 55%, but I just didn't want to have this long grind on invasion, and that's it. So I get Mark, and we approach the table.
And did Mark agree? Did you have a chat?
About what?
About the Infernal's mirror. You sort of, in your mind, it was just, if you get to go first, you're on for a good game, and if you don't, he's probably going to win. Did he agree with that, or did he have a different approach?
We did not have the chat before the game, but we had the chat after the game, which I will come to. Because before the game, I approached the table, and we are playing with the very, very big obstruction in the middle. So usually I would probably take Omodamos in the mirror, because Omodamos has 4 heavies and not long shadows, locked horns maybe will help me in the mirror. But in this case, with this building, I didn't want to do it because Zatarov has Ghostwalk, and I thought that it might be a trouble. Omodamos, of course, has Ghostwalk too, but only in 1 turn. And I never played Infernal's Mirror, so I didn't know if the game is going to be decided on 1 turn or if it's like a very cagey game. I had no idea. So because of this obstruction, I chose Zatarov and just hoped that I can win the roll to go first. But Mark chooses Agathon, which has 2 heavies. So that was weird, and I was a bit... I was a bit sad that I did not choose Omodamos. Mark offered me to go with Omodamos, but Jake stopped him.
Ever the voice of reason. Jake spends most of his life trying to curb Mark's successes. Right. So go on.
So we roll who goes first, and Mark wins the roll. He goes first. I choose the side, and because I went second, my gate would be further up the table. I wouldn't put it... like as far as I could, but I would create this nice bunker connected with objective. And because I'm going second, there's no way Mark can target my objective before that. So I felt pretty safe from Agathon's assassination. So Mark moves up, I move up. Then Mark wants to send his foreboders to do some work. He spends some time to measure precisely foreboder to get like a really nasty Helmoth into my cultists. He would get like 4 cultists and a Mark Soul, which was very bad for me. But I had a counter charge to this proxy base. So I was waiting for Mark to finish this movement. It took a long time. So clock was going to my advantage. And then Mark decides to send the forebodder. I countercharge, very excited, and then realized that it could be a bait because the snake is waiting. So I measured 11 inches from the snake, and hopefully I could countercharge the forebodder without being charged by the snake. I killed the forebodder. So Mark, because he lost a lot of time, he sends another forebodder just to throw some spells like dark fires to get some souls for the next turn. And then he repositions his army and puts some cultists to trigger revelations. Then in my turn, I could go in. I had an alpha which could... I had the chance to remove 2 heavies, and my Road to War trigger was the forebodder. But because of some order of activation issues and things like that, I throwed an annihilation onto the forebodder and killed it, and realized that magic doesn't trigger Road to War. So I decided to just shuffle around, secure the scenario with my heavies, fit so it's not worth to go into me, and pass the clock to Mark. I was also...
Did you just say magic doesn't trigger Road to War?
Yeah, Rites of Torment. It does not. Only ranged and melee attacks.
Huh. All right. Good to know. Carry on.
So so because of that, I was in a good spot. Like I have more heavies. I've removed some models from Mark. I also triggered the revelation, which is important. I triggered it in the beginning of the turn just because then Agathon cannot be this aggressive with his teleport if he wants to set up an assassination. So I was in a good spot, and then Mark is silent for like 10 minutes, and like I'm really worried. So I'm like, what are you going to do now? Hampshire me for 10 minutes? I'm worried here, Mark. What's going on?
So you're just getting quietly bend.
Yeah. So Mark tells me like, so I think I have a good assassination because you're camping 1 and I have some angles to you. I say, Mark, I'm camping 5. Come on, I'm playing versus Agathon. And Mark is like, but there's a marker saying 1 next to you, and I already lost some time. So I forgot to move the essence when I moved the heavy together with it, and Zatarov's essence was behind the gate. So I showed Mark that I'm camping 5, but because it was my bad, I offered to lower it to camp 1 because of it was my mistake. I wasn't clear enough on the table with my tokens. Mark obviously said no, but I insisted. I lowered my essence to 1, so the assassination was on the table, and Mark proceeds. Then he spends another, I would say, 20 something minutes just like doing trigonometry in his head, and I would just watch at the table. And then he starts doing things. So he gave like an essence from Hermit, then he gave Harmonious Exaltation, then he kills all his cultists to get some rerolls. Then he gives Agathon Puppet Master. The clock is running low. We're talking about like 4 minutes now. Then he sends a snake. Because of this obstruction and because of the gate and my objective, the corridor that Agathon needs to charge to get the assassination is very narrow, and he needs to remove a forebodder that is in the way. And after this forebodder is removed, there are a lot of things that he needs to do. So it's like a very, very complicated assassination with my feet on top of that if he misses anything, I teleport and it's off the table. So then Snake charges the forebodder, kills the forebodder to open a space for Agathon. Mark is now on like 2 minutes, so he says like, all right, need some big rolls. Agathon activates, and then Mark realizes I set up a trap with Shrieker. You wanted to hear more about Shrieker, so here it is.
The Shrieker's back, baby.
Yeah. So Shrieker was outside of any threat range from war beasts or horrors on Mark's side. He could, of course, get into the Shrieker with Helmos and stuff like that, but that means Agathon already activated. And Mark couldn't find a spot to put Agathon to be able to cast spells because of Wailing and because of this obstruction. So once Mark realizes there's a Shrieker, he concedes, and that's the game.
Shrieker wins again. 2 out of 2. He's on 100% win rate right now. Anyone not running a Shrieker is making an error. Right. Perfect. So we end 2-1 in the second round as well. Cool. All right.
Yeah, and a quick thing. You asked about the matchup, and Mark acknowledged that he made a mistake in list selection. He should choose Zatarov. He didn't see that I can create this nice bunker to hide Zatarov from Agathon, and also the obstruction in the middle would cripple him, but it wouldn't cripple me. So
right. So he didn't respect the terrain as much as he should have done, maybe.
Yep.
Pre-game. Okay, well, lots to think about. Cool. We move into round 3, the semi-finals, and I presume we're down to some pretty strong teams now. The scenario is bunkers. So everybody's favorite triple flag scenario. And which team did you play against?
Morgan, Daniel, and Andreas from Sweden.
All right, perfect. So we've got Daniel playing his Signar, we've got Morgan playing his Scorn, and Andreas playing...
Infernals, but both casters were in Hearts of Darkness. It was Sloan and Fiora 3.
Okay. I have never played against Andreas. Is he, like, was he just having fun, or was he...
No.
Playing hard.
A lot of people were afraid of Andreas, actually. Like, they said that there's no way to beat him on attrition with his Fiora 3 list. It was very scary. Like, Judicator could go up to power strength 30. So it was something to respect. And Andreas is also very, very tight player, very attrition-focused player. So
all right, so he was playing solid and moving through. Brilliant, excellent. So it was going to be looked like it was going to be a good game. What did we do? Did we go Operation Nima under the bus?
Kuba wanted to dodge Siege 1. I think you weren't sure how the matchup plays out after Harby's nerf. That's correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And I wanted to dodge Morgan because I wasn't up for a 7-round grind up to last seconds. No way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember tables that much. Like, there was one table I didn't want to play Siege 1 on, but if that means I'm covering Kuba, I can take it. And the matchup felt okay, but I've never played it. So in the end, Kuba was playing versus Morgan, Nima was playing versus Andreas, and I was playing versus Daniel.
Okay, and did you get the table that you were not a big fan of? Or
Yeah, exactly. It was not possible to get the team good matchups and me getting the table I wanted.
Right. Well, I mean, it's sometimes physically possible, but against good players, very, very unlikely. Okay. So once again, we'll stick with the same order. Why not? So Kuba, tell us about your game with Morgan.
Yeah. So first of all, I played Vindictus because I think he has pretty good chance into Zal. The day before, I won against Jake with the same list. For 2 months ago, I lost to Blade in boosted finals, also Vindictus versus Zal. So I knew that this is pretty close matchup, but right now I know it very well, and I know what kind of mistakes, what kind of moves or mistakes or activations I have to avoid.
And what is it about Vindictus that gives him a good game into Zal?
First of all, it's there are two things. It's penitence. His spell where if he damage my model, he takes 1 damage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's blocking his vengeance very much, because like I can kill almost double as much of I can go in with my Idrians, shoot him when he goes back on me with remaining immortals. He's taking 1 wound.
And they just start dying. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Plus feat, it's also pretty decent.
Just remind me, I have no idea what his feat is.
He's providing, he's preventing his army of charging my warrior models. And he cannot spell my models, and he cannot make non-magical range attacks on my models.
That's pretty strong, pretty strong defensive feat. Okay, so how does the game play out?
So the thing is that the terrain was pretty crazy. There were 3 flags, and the flag in the middle, like right in front of one flag in the middle, you had obstruction. And you could basically contest you could contest this flag from behind that obstruction, and also like on his side, he had the full access to the flag. So like both of us could either prevent each other from scoring, or he could score. Basically it was great, trying to prevent from scoring on the middle flag and on the right flag. The same situation appeared there. You had to have one model behind obstruction, and then you were cancelling the points on the flag. So I think I went first. I pushed with my Idrians. Did a couple of shots, he passed a couple of tafts, then he went in with some vengeance. He killed some of my models, I killed some of his models. On the left side I had Sanctifier dancing around with admonition, so he was like setting up for going after Supreme Guardian. So it was like it was like a lot of chests, a lot of attrition, a lot of grind, that was the best game of that day for me. Like Morgan, he played really excellent game, and what he did that was very smart. I think he fitted I think he fitted in his round 5.
Okay.
And then I fitted
late.
Yeah, and then I fitted in my round 6. So it's very unusual for this type of matchup, you know, like, and I think what he did was actually very, very smart, you know, because I didn't place my models where I could commit on his statue, because
Supreme,
because he had an option of fitting, you know, like on my approach, so I couldn't push as hard as I wanted, but he had the same problem in a way. So it went down to a huge grind and to the clock at some point. Like first I was leading a lot on scenario points. Then he recovered. You know, he get his points back. The table was pretty wide on both sides, and at the end he didn't have enough time to win the game. He clocked out.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm feeling a bit bad for Morgan for this weekend. It sounds like he's had an absolute, like, litany of incredibly long grinds that he's just barely lost. Like, in a way, he's had some fantastic games, I feel sure. Like, every single game with Morgan so far that we've discussed on the cast has sounded great, but at the same time, he's lost all of them. That's got to be a bitch. Like, fuck, so close.
Yeah.
So close, no cigars, but at the same time, I talked with him about the game and about the game after the game, and I have a strong belief that he picked up a lot from this tourney. He had a couple of good games, and I'm looking forward to meet him on next con, you know, and do it again, you know, because I think that he learned so much from it, so he will be even more dangerous opponent, you know, like in short.
Oh, for sure. And maybe we can put maybe we can take some of the Boosted Rolls Patreon money and buy him some cigars. So we'll just send him a little pack.
Good idea.
That sounds amazing. Have someone deliver it to the next tournament and just be like, look, at least you got some cigars. Right. We move on then to Nima's game. So you ended up with who did you get? Sorry, I forgot.
Andreas. I played against Andreas.
Yep.
Well, I would like to say that I felt so sorry for Morgan that he got my spot in the Invitationals, but I opted to stay home and sleep instead. Anyways, I was playing. I just heard Infernals when we were doing the lists. After I got Infernals, I was back with a vengeance. I looked at his lists and we talked a bit about them. Me and Kuba. It was Fiora and Sloan on that fast of a. I mean, the scenario was so fast that I didn't really think about Sloan at all. The problem is, well, the good thing about Fiora is that I've played out of 200 games, I play 190 against Kuba, so I know all the Protectorate models so much that I could play that game in my sleep. Not saying I could win, I'm just saying I could play it in my sleep. But he picked Sloan.
Okay.
So I was looking at the table and I decided and I wanted to go first as well. So I just ran everything up. He didn't want to be in range of anything, so he stood on his ground. Didn't move at all. I moved, my second turn, I moved my 2 tridents 2 inches back, making sure that I'm within range of his objective. And I'm out of his shooting range. But I moved my 2 heavy jacks, Imperatus and Hemera, behind a obstruction as far as I could up. So what I was hoping for was that he focuses and concentrates on killing those 2 jacks. And on the other side, I just ran every sentinel I had as far up as I could, because I thought that if he focuses on my sentinels, he doesn't have enough to kill all of them, and then I get vengeance, and then I'm in his face. Mm-hmm. That's what happened. He tried to kill both my jacks. He successfully defeated. Sloan walked up. I told him that you better kill Imperatus now, or he will be in your face next turn. So he killed both my Hemera and Imperatus, and passed the turn over to me. Looking at the and he killed my Chimera as well, the Arc Node.
Okay.
looked at the table and I said, all right. Then I was kind of hoping that this was the turn I can win. I charged up both I walked up both my tridents. I killed everything that was contesting. Ran solo on one flag, ran solo on the other flag. Oh yeah, sorry. And my 2 tridents killed off his objective as well through 2 Umbra Guardians. I think that's what they call it.
The Umbrals, yeah.
So that was pretty fun. I rolled a bit hot on that, and eventually I killed everything that was contesting, and then he just shook hands, and I won 5-0.
Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds like a very solid win. Nice, perfect. Anything that you took from that game? Anything that you learned that was new information for you?
Well, the thing is that back in the days when we had this Norwegian player called Jarle, I'm pretty sure everyone knows who he is. I think I played several hundred games against him, against Sloan. So really, I knew like every model on that table, except the Umbra Guardians and But I mean, there were no tricks. It was just his army shoots really hard and really accurate. So I think we talked about it a bit after the game, and we both decided that probably Sloan was the wrong choice. And if he wanted to pick Sloan, he should have been a bit more forward. He should have stepped a bit more forward. And I told him that I was pretty sure that he was going to pick Fiora, but he also had some good arguments on why he didn't want to pick Fiora and Judicator. So all in all, I think that matchup was basically favored for me. That's what we decided, and I would like to give a shout out to Andreas as well. He's a proper gentleman when playing, and he's very, very clean in his game as well.
I think he's judged enough tables where he probably just, like, I mean, not saying that this is the only reason why or something, but I think, like, especially people who are judges for a length of time very often play very clean because they just know the advantages of it. Like, it's a very nice trait that I noticed from people who do judging. It's cool. I wish I'd managed to play against Andreas. We never got a game in.
ConQuest next year.
I'm unlikely to make it, but we'll see. And Tomasz, how was your game then?
So I'm playing versus Daniel, so a very strong player, and it's Siege 1. And I didn't know how to feel about the matchup because I have Long Shadows, which is probably a very good tool versus gun lines that are not spray-based. But also I have no Umbrals, and he shoots really hard. So when he shoots, I cannot really protect myself and things will die. We are playing bunkers, which I don't like. And there's a forest in the middle, and he has a mage site. Also, the forest is of a size of like 2 large bases, so not a big forest. So I didn't know how to feel about the matchup. I approached the game. I wanted to play cagey passively to figure out things during the game. He wins the roll to go first. He goes first. I chose the side that had less rough terrain on one side. The table was pretty open, so the table choice wasn't that important. And he moves up. I move up. I realize I have no reason to move towards into his ranges, so I just stay with everything outside of his ranges. My ranges are very long, and the scenario is very live. So if he wants to contest flags, he needs to put something that can trigger my Rites of Torment. And if he puts something like a hard target onto the flag, I might not be able to start my Rites of Torment chain. But if he puts like 1 or 2 Ryzen or something like this, I can start my chain and get into his army. So what Daniel did was putting some, like, put a battle engine, and he put like a triumph and a light to contest the flag, and he left 1 flag open. He did some shooting, but not much, so nothing happened. And he moved Siege into Foxhole. So if I want to rebuke Siege, which is a very strong play, I would need to go to defense 18, which I probably need some rerolls, and it's still not that likely to hit. Mm-hmm. And he runs some Ryzens. So in my turn, I start my turn by shooting with the gate, and I get a perfect deviation onto like 5 Ryzen and Acosta. I boosted damage roll on Acosta and kill all the Ryzens, and that started my Road to or Rites of Torments chain. Then I send my Arknote, blind one of the battle engine, then send my Snake with Skylink Touch, with rerolls, and with Puppet Master and Orin rerolls, send it into the Triumph and a Light. I kill the Triumph. That allows me to send some more things into the battle engine. So I did a lot of damage before Siege was able to retaliate. And on top of that, I fit. So Daniel realizes he made a mistake. He just let me alpha, and I took too many things because I had the Road to Rites of Torments target. So he said like he needs to go for a 5-0 on scenario. But because it was my fit turn, and because there were a lot of things to kill in order to get those 5 points, he did not manage to get them. I think he scored 2, and in return I was able to kill everything, and that was the game. So
right,
yeah. So I think we discussed the game afterwards. The scenario was good for Daniel. The terrain was good for Daniel. The matchup wasn't great, probably bad, but all those things made it pretty even. And Daniel didn't have that much experience into Infernals yet, so we just discussed that he could actually leave the scenario, don't contest those flags, because Infernals cannot afford to score like 3 flags. Because those solos are very important. Those are marked souls. I could afford only to do it if I'm about to win the game. If not, I won't score those flags. I will just try to contest them anyway. So he could afford another turn of staying out and then pushing into me. But it didn't happen, and the team win.
I mean, Zartaroth does sound like a very, very nice list into Siege 1. Yeah. What was his other list again?
It was Striker 2, and I think he already played that into Zartaroth, and he didn't feel that it's a good matchup. And on top of that, there was a lot of rough terrain on the table, and he doesn't have a lot of Pathfinder. So
okay, fair enough. So you take the semi-finals 3-0, yeah?
Yep.
Perfect. And so we move on into the finals. It's on King of the Hill, and who was it that made it in there with you?
Another Polish-Norwegian team with with 1 player from Poland, 1 player from Norway, and 1 player from Poland that moved to Norway that's playing Harbinger, and his name is Kuba, and it's not the Kuba that we talk to in this podcast.
What the chances? Okay, so and who was the other Kuba playing with?
It was Kuba versus Kuba.
But who were the other 2 players on that team? Sorry.
Piotr playing Signar.
Yep.
And Hans playing Scorn.
Cool. All right. So you've got Signar, Scorn, and Harby.
Yep.
Cool. And what were your dodges, guys? What were you thinking you wanted to avoid? So, Kuba?
I didn't want to meet Siege.
Siege. Okay. So again, dodge Siege. Fair enough. And Nima?
I'm okay with Siege, but his second list, I've never ever played against, and I didn't understand the trick, so I said I'd rather not play against him.
So everyone's trying to dodge the Signar, good. Signar power. And Tomasz?
Well, I didn't really have any dodges there, but I didn't want to play versus Flames because I have very little experience into them, and I didn't want to play versus Scorn just because I didn't want to play Scorn.
So Operation Whoop Whoop Nima, or
yep, Nima felt comfortable.
It's working like a treat so far. Why stop now? So, all right. Well, let's hear about the Kuba mirror. So, how did that one work out?
All right. So, it was an absolutely awful game.
Right? For you, for him, or in general?
No. This particular game, could have gone so wrong, because basically, we played King of a Hill, we play Harby Mirror. I have 4 heavies. He has Judicator, and from design, I have a better list into Mirror. And then we hit the scenario where he has only 1 contesting piece. And Judicator, he can contest only 1 of 2 zones.
Do you mean score, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, there is no way, you know, for me to lose this game. You know, there's absolutely no chance that I can lose it, you know, on this scenario. And with an experience, we played this mirror a couple of times. We also played the same mirror with the same list back in Poland on Invitational's Boosted Con. So Jakub, he wasn't too happy about this mirror, you know, when we understood that he has only one scoring piece, you know. Then he decided to go with his Judicator on his left side. I decided, all right, so what I have to do, I have to threaten Judicator with 1/3 of my army, and then rest of my army can just take the middle, and I don't even have to care about his right zone. I just wanted to have one Jack close by that could potentially threaten his objective and score on his zone, but it also forced him to keep some of his models in close to that zone, so they wouldn't be that impactful on the middle.
So it's just a pure scenario game. Like there's no one's worried about assassinations, no one's worried about attrition necessarily, as long as it doesn't get too far ahead. You're just trying to pull out a scenario win.
Yeah, and I'm getting there.
Perfect. So go for it.
So I Wonderwall, I went first, you know, like universe can't be better, you know, like I think, okay, I got this, you know, like the only thing you have to do, Kuba, is not to fuck up and not to get sprayed by a Judicator somehow, you know. But anyway, you know, like I played pretty aggressively with Harby. There was a huge or pretty big obstruction dividing middle zone and the zone where his Judicator stood. So I set up the wall with my Jacks and initiate, so Judicator wouldn't be able to get into Harby on this side, and then I'm threatening his zone so much, and I'm threatening the middle the turn after I also fitted this turn, you know, so he couldn't get closer to me, and I would be just in his grill with a full force next turn. And then, you know, like he's looking at the table. It doesn't look like situation looks bad for me. I feel very safe, you know, because I know that the Judicator can't get there. And then I haven't seen his side of the table, and he figured that if he will move around this obstruction that stood there, he might be in range of Harbinger. And I thought, no, there is no way, you know, like there is not enough space there, and he can't move that far to potentially see Harby.
Sure.
So he put a proxy base. He's trying to show me that he can, and I'm saying no, you can't. This is not happening, man. You know, because I can't see your base. You know, like, and then he's taking a laser and it's going really on millimeters.
Okay.
So we decided to call a judge on that. You know, I couldn't see that, but you know, like I didn't question him at the same time. I just want judge to take a call on it.
It's always better. In that case, it's always better. Yeah.
Yeah, and the judge decided that, yeah, he can see the Harby.
Oh, okay.
So Harby, she can get 2 sprays in her face. So I thought, all right, I'm dead. There is also Archon hanging out next to Harby, you know, like...
Just for the extra +2.
Yeah, for the extra +2. So I just thought... We calculated it. Actually, he had 58% assassination chance, and then there was he could have it higher because of Hand of Silence, but we moved them all somehow, or he assaulted Harby and he missed the boosted 10, so it could go up to 62%, I believe. And he went for it. So he did 16 damage on Harby with those 2 sprays, and I was on fire, and then fire expired in my turn. Then we shook hands, you know, and yeah, fuck, you know.
Oh dear God! So from a very, very squeaky line of sight to a squeaky assassination to a squeaky fire goes out, and he lives with his butt cheeks clenched.
I got so lucky, you know, in that game, you know, like I thought that she's dead, you know, like all right, 2 power. 17 sprays or 16 sprays into Harby with Hand of Fate and stuff, you know, like she's going to die so bad, you know, and yeah. It bite me in the ass the day after when I played against Tomasz, you know. Then I didn't roll my rolls, you know, but I did in that game.
Yeah, you took your good rolls out of the pool too soon. That's the downside.
Yeah, but
fair enough.
You actually need 1 or 2 for the fire to expire, so you just kept those rolls.
Yeah, and I kept those rolls. Yes, that's what it was.
He started a trend.
but I guess, you know, that. This game was really in my favorite. You know, like I should have seen it. You know, I maybe should have checked it. You know, because it was unnecessary risk. But Jakub is really good on picking this kind of details. You know, and he found out that he might get a line, and he got it. You know, and it was fair assassination.
Yeah, I mean, he found the line. You know, if he found the line, he found the line.
Yeah.
You know, fair enough.
I have a question for you. So if you're in this situation where you're toast, right? You cannot martyrdom because it increases his chances of assassination. Could he not try to go for an attrition play, because using the advantage that you cannot martyrdom, kill some of your stuff to maybe turn the table around and to get into the better position, and then try to go for an assassination, or maybe even not if the situation would be better?
He had no chance for it because he had to spread his forces, and it was my feet turn.
All right, fair enough.
Okay.
So basically, you know, if he's going in with initiates, you know, they take so much damage. So maybe he would die faster from martyrdom than I would, you know.
That's an interesting one. We'll chat about martyrdom a little bit just at the end. All right, cool. And Nima, how was your final game? What was the matchup?
I was playing against Hans. And he played Sal 2. I played Gareth.
Okay.
So my second match. I was a bit. Throughout the game. I was a bit nervous because I really didn't want to lose this game. Kind of wanted to go 2-2 at least. But yeah, and also back of my mind, I had Jake, which he reached out to touch me in bad places when I was playing the previous game.
Well, you say that, but what's actually happened is you've increased your experience by 100%.
Exactly, and that's one of the things I would like to say that I got out of the Jake game. Game against Jake was a lot of experience. So basically, the only difference in his list to Jake's list was that he had a Mammoth instead of 2 Supreme Guardians. Mm-hmm.
It's funny, he was playing Jake's old list.
Yeah, basically. So I moved one of my jacks to the far right corner just to contest the zone and score, because he couldn't spread his army that much, so he had to run the Mammoth over to contest, and that's what basically happened. The Hydra was the Harpy was my 9-point jack was kind of holding his Mammoth there at bay, just making sure I was out of reach. Gareth shot Ancestral Guardian, armor piercing. I rolled 665, and from there on, I basically I lost some stuff. He lost some stuff, but he lost a lot more stuff. So in the end of the game, he had.
He had 1 AG?
He had Zal, basically. Yes, he had 1. I think he had 1 Ancestral Guardian. Or did he have 2? He had 1. I'm pretty sure.
If he had 1 and you nailed it early, that is big.
Yeah. Did he have 1 or 2? I don't remember.
I think most builds have 1 now. So.
Yeah.
A lot of them have been getting real greedy with that stuff in order to make room for other stuff. So yeah, a lot of them are trying to get away with 1, and if you clip it, then it's so massive.
They make space for Void Archon, right?
But yeah, he had also Void. But basically, what I found out playing against Jake was that I should be a lot more aggressive with Gareth, because he doesn't have anything that can threaten me. So in that early in the game, so that's what I did against Hans. I just ran up Gareth first turn, and second turn I said, okay, here's a feat, and also I shot, making the trident move Gareth 2 inches forward. So I had basically 16-inch stretch with Gareth. So 1 shot that really hurt Ancestral Guardian, feated, so he couldn't move into the zone. And then from there on, I started just killing stuff. And he had his last turn. He kind of went for an assassination on Gareth with the Mammoth, shooting and hoping for deviations. Sadly for him, none of the deviations hit. But it was. He told me that it was a long shot, and I accept his calculations. And after that, I just killed the Mammoth, and the game was over because he had only Zal left.
So you finished on the high. You got the 2-2 that you wanted.
Yeah, it was. Plus, I mean, Kuba won his in his second round or something. So I was pretty sure if I just win, I really don't care what happens to Tomasz. Then we won.
Poor Tomasz. No one giving a shit what happens in your game, except for me. I care. So,
Thank you.
What happened in your game?
So I get Piotr with Siege 1 and Constance Blaze.
Mm-hmm.
So I choose Zatarov because there's Siege on the other side. And Piotr chooses Siege. He said that he tried Constance versus Omodamos before in the tournament and he didn't like the matchup even though he won the game. So what I'm thinking before the game is like, I just played that matchup. I have an experience. I have some thoughts from Daniel on it. And he probably never played it and has no experience. So I'm in a good spot. Also, the terrain looks a bit better than in the game against Daniel because I have Cloud in the middle. So we roll who goes first. He wins the roll and he decides to go first. So I approach basically the game the same way. So he moves up, I move up. Then Piotr is like moving his stuff around and he's saying like, okay, so Acosta moves back. So what's your deviation range? And I'm like, this reminds me of a game with Daniel because I killed the Acosta with deviation. Then he's like, oh, I have no reason to move forward, so I probably don't have to give you road to war targets. And I'm like, dude, did you spoke to Daniel? Because it sounds like you did. And he's like, yep, we had a chat before the game. So I was like, oops. He then proceeds to contest the side zones with stuff that I couldn't kill because they were too far away. Like one Thrall went around to the very side of where the ambush would be. Then the Stormstrider moved to very far to the left side where the ambush would be. So they are safe from me basically charging. But what he forgot about that previously with Daniel, I've played bunkers and it's really hard to get into your opponent's objective. But on this scenario, it's very easy. So he would contest the middle flag with Triumph. He would put everything outside, every hard target outside of my charge range, not respecting Road to War because he was sure I cannot get Road to War starting. And then in my turn, I killed objective. So again, I went in onto the siege and removed a battle engine, removed Triumph and crippled the light. So it's the same situation again. And this is the situation from where siege cannot really recover because he's fitting into my fit with half his army dead already, even though his ranges are longer than mine, even through long shadows. And he didn't manage to kill enough stuff and score any point. And the next turn, I just score 5 points and win.
Ouch. Yeah, I mean, Siege really doesn't play well from behind. Like, he plays super strong if he's at full strength, but once he gets behind, it's a bit like Sloan.
Yeah.
You know, these gun lines, they really have a very tight window that they need to operate within. And if you didn't manage it, that's a shame. Well, congratulations, guys. That's a very resounding finals victory.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question for Kuba, because it came up a little while ago, and I'm interested anyway. What are your feelings on the Harbinger nerf? You've had the chance to play a few games with the new D3+1 for Martyrdom, and you know, do you think it's enough? Do you think they should have done something differently? Do you know, how does it affect the game for you?
Okay, so definitely it will. It affects my game. It will affect my pairings. So I feel the nerf, but there are still factions that have absolutely no chance against Harby. That they cannot win into Harby. But in general, you know, she can't win a tourney single-handed. You have to be very lucky in your pairings and
because
because you know, basically, you know, like you could max out your martyrdoms up to 16 if you were lucky. Now you can max it to 8, right?
Right.
So against armies like Signar, it's not enough. I guess Retribution, against Retribution, it might not be enough. And I feel the nerf, you know, on her, you know, like she's still a super good caster, you know, top of a pop. but as I said, she can't single-handed win a tourney anymore.
So you feel like it's done something. It's forced you to at least consider your second list a bit more and to cover a few things, and it's created a small vulnerability in Harby. But in the matchups where nothing's changed, she's still undefeatable. Like, and those matchups would be something like Trolls and
Trolls for sure. I think Kader will still struggles against her. Even though there are some builds with Grievous Wounds and so on, but it's just not enough. Also, Void Archons themselves, they're very dangerous for Harby, because now much more factions also have an option of assassination, because she's going. That's why I put Devout in the list, because I feel I roll 2-3 Martydons and I'm almost dead already, and then one stupid spell here and there and she's dead.
Right, so it's more of an impact.
Yeah, when they hit her with a change, I thought, no way, it's not enough. And then I haven't played her until ConQuest. I just played her before the nerf in Poland, and then I dropped her again for another month. Now I played her during ConQuest, and there is a lot of matchups where I don't feel that as comfortable as before, and I don't know if she will remain in my pairing in the long run.
Oh, wow. It's even that strong. Okay. I'll be really interested to hear from Christian if he's still sticking with his Serenia list exactly as it was, or what changes he made to that, whether he's put anything in there. He's interestingly got basically a Harby list, but with Serenia, and so he hasn't suffered from the nerf and he has a similar list. So maybe that's a direction that people might go with Menoth if they feel that Harby's been hit.
Yeah, me and Christian were talking about it, and we believe that Serenia, she in a way took Harby's place.
Really, it's that strong?
Yeah, it is pretty strong. No, because all of a sudden you before you couldn't, you wouldn't like to play into Grimkins, you wouldn't like to play into Stalker spam, and maybe 1 or 2 matchups that I could think of. And right now, it increased, by 60-70%,
Right, a lot more of these little matchups that are just more problematic, and you've got to deal with it. Interesting. Well, I think if there are any Menoth players out there who are thinking about what to pair with, I think you can't really listen to anyone more qualified than Kuba and Christian to talk about Menoth. So
I'm sorry, I have one digression, because I played last round against Amon, one of our local players, who he played Fiona. And I was pretty tired against after my game against Tomasz. My morale went down. And I just wanted to. I don't drop the games. But I just wanted to be finished fast with playing. So I decided, I will just drop Harby, and I will basically play in completely brain-dead mode. I will build one bunker. I will run her forward, and I won't do anything. And I will still win. I knew it before the game. He can do whatever he wants. And I will still win the game. And it was a super ugly approach from me. I'm very sorry. To do that. I was just exhausted. And but there are still these matchups with Harby that your opponent. He can feel almost like cheated.
He just can't win.
He can't win. No matter what I do. He can't win. And of course, if I won't expose her to assassination, then I won't. Yeah, that's an only win condition for my opponent, right? But so there is still a couple of these super ugly matchups, but it's nothing like before,
Gotcha. No, well, I mean, as I say, if any Menoth players are out there having a listen, I would pay strong attention to Kuba and Christian and what their discussions lead to, because they really know what they're about. So maybe have a look into Serenia, think about Harby before you drop her, and go from there. Cool. Right. Well, what are the upcoming tournaments, gents? What are your next tournaments that you plan to attend? So again, we'll start with Kuba. Where are you going next?
I will try to go to Spanish Masters.
Really? Cool. When's that?
Beginning of March, I believe.
7th to 8th March in Barcelona. It's Barcelona Masters.
Cool. Excellent. Are you going, Tomasz?
I would love to. I was there last year and I can't recommend it enough. But this year, I just don't have good flights from Poland. And I will try, but it's very unlikely.
Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. Where is your next destination? What's the next big one for you?
Definitely Primal Arc. It's in Krakow in March 27, I believe. It's the last weekend of March. I know a lot of players are coming from UK, from Sweden, from Norway, so probably from Germany too. So I would recommend that to anyone. It's fully painted, keep that in mind. And if you want to know more details about it, just contact me through Facebook and I will give you all the info you need.
If I just turn up for drinking, do I have to fully paint my face?
Yes.
Oh, I have to get the leopard out again, aren't I? Right. And Nima, what's your next local or international that you're planning to hit?
Well, I'm just off my parental leave, and my wife told me that I should get out and play some more. So I'm definitely going to one of these in one of the tournaments in Poland. I don't think I will be attending the Spanish Masters, but I haven't really made up my mind. But Poland is definitely one of the. I love going to Poland. I think it's extremely fun to go and play there.
Well, you've got good flight connections as well. Like my girlfriend's from Norway, and like flights from Poland to Norway are pretty cheap and pretty regular. So you've got some good options, and they even go directly to Krakow or to Katowice or whatever. So you've got nice options. So hopefully the guys will see you at Primal Arc.
Yeah, we'll definitely go.
Possibly with me in a leopard face pin. Excellent.
You just increased the attendance by 50%.
We've just bumped it up a bit. I should take a commission.
Yeah. You have it.
Excellent. All right. Quick plug, if I may, once again for my Twitch stream. I've also got a YouTube channel, but it is essentially just right now it's content from the stream. But if you want to go and take a look, you can. There are highlight videos from a lot of every stream and playlists from all the games that I've played. All sorts of stuff being played on there, some horror stuff, some competitive stuff, some chill out, various games, but also it is just a place to come and chat. So I know that I don't get to come to any tournaments or anything this year, as I've left the game sort of competitively, but it would be a real pleasure if I've met you at any tournaments or anything like that to catch up. So come on the stream, say hello, and if you want to, it's one place where you can come and just talk War Machine. I'm always happy to still chat about it, even if I don't play anymore. So if you've got any thoughts on our table conflict discussion or whatever, feel free to come and chat with me, or go over to the Boosted Rolls Discord. But for that, we would appreciate it if you could maybe support us via Patreon. So do consider that. It's a great way to support the podcast. Tomasz puts a lot of effort and work into the editing. So if you feel like you're in a position to contribute, please do so. It's very much appreciated. Any shout outs or anything anyone wants to say at the end?
I want to say thank you to Jonas and Sverre for arranging ConQuest again. We had so much fun because of these guys, and they both have small kids, and they're very occupied with work, and they really squeeze this time, to family time and work time, to organize a tournament for us.
Good shout.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you two guys for coming to the show and also for being in my team, and Kuba for hosting me in Norway. It was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Always pleasure, man.
I want to thank Kuba for getting Tomasz drunk so that we have great stories every single time. Every fucking time. There's always there was vodka. Oh, was there? What a shock. But it always leads to some great stories and battle reports. So marvellous stuff. And thanks for coming on again, even after the catastrophe we had last time.
Oh, well, I know. That's why I had to record with Nima,
Yeah, we're not done yet.
Let's see, shall we?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hope everyone has a good evening and enjoy the episode.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.